Montana This Morning continues on Montana's News Leader.
How will President Trump's America First agenda play out at the world's biggest gathering of global business leaders? I'm Gavin Ramshorn in London with the latest on the World Economic Forum in Davos and the domestic issues following the president overseas.
Coming up, we hear from county commissioners and their latest plans for the Law and Justice Center.
Good morning. So glad to have you with us on this Thursday. Current time, 6:30. I'm Missy O'Malley, and our top story for you. President Trump will today become the first sitting U.S. president to attend the World Economic Forum since Bill Clinton in 2000. At the event, often described as the epicenter of globalization and free trade, Mr. Trump is expected to push his America First agenda. Gavin Ramshorn is in London with the latest, as well as some interesting comments the president made to a group of reporters back home just before leaving.
President Trump is in Davos, Switzerland today for the World Economic Forum. Shortly before takeoff, Mr. Trump held an impromptu press conference with reporters where he insisted his administration's tax cuts and deregulation will make the U.S. more appealing to foreign investors.
I'm going to Davos to get them to bring back a lot of money. They're going to invest a lot of money in this country.
Treasury Secretary Steve Mnuchin arrived in Davos a day before the president. He surprised many economists by praising a weaker U.S. dollar, claiming it helps with trade.
It's really all about economic growth, opportunities to invest, free and fair trade.
Some at the conference view Mnuchin's statements and recent U.S. decisions on trade as a sign of protectionism. Leaders from Germany, India and Italy, though, among those urging against such policies.
We need free trade, free market, and not protectionism.
The president arrives in Davos with two issues lingering over him back home: immigration and the Russia investigation. At that same pre-flight Q&A with reporters, the president insisted he's looking forward to being interviewed by special counsel Robert Mueller.
Oh, I would do it under oath, yeah. Absolutely.
Mr. Trump also spoke on DACA. When asked about a path towards citizenship for immigrants brought here illegally as children, he said, quote, "It's going to happen at some point in the future over a period of 10 to 12 years. Gavin Ramshorn, CBS News, London.
Now, the president plans to hold bilateral talks today with the British and Israeli prime ministers. Tomorrow, he will deliver that keynote address before returning home. Matt joins me now at the desk. I'm kind of excited. Some warmer temperatures right here around the Four Corners area, but it's kind of a mixed bag.
Temperatures is certainly below freezing, but I think your return trip home from work may be more dicey than the trip to work or school. Temperatures holding into the 20s. We're waiting for some snow to develop throughout the morning. Those clouds are just bustling their way through, and we're starting to see that last little frame where you're seeing the snow trying to develop just north of Butte, closer to Anaconda. So we'll be watching that pretty closely. Scattered snow showers through the mid to late morning for the Bozeman area, likely to impact your evening commute. We'll see the potential of snow a little earlier in Butte, but man, it is going to be kind of cool as you head closer to the weekend. We'll talk more about your complete forecast coming up in just a couple minutes.
Thank you, Matt. Our top local story for you now. Gallatin County commissioners say they don't need the city of Bozeman's help to build a new facility for the sheriff's office. Bozeman city officials have already said they will be taking more time with a decision on whether to stay in the current L&J building and work with the county, or if they'll build their own public safety center on the property that they own on Rouse. MTN's Morgan Davies has the latest from a special county meeting held yesterday.
County commissioners can no longer wait for city commissioners to decide what they are going to do with the Law and Justice Center. So the county is going to go ahead and start designing a plan for the current Law and Justice Center that would only include county departments.
If we're by ourselves, the majority of the building has been done, and we just have to do some modification to the plan design to accommodate the sheriff's office.
County commissioners will be looking for architects to take on their solo project for remodeling the Law and Justice Center. However, they say they will still leave a door open in the event that the city decides to work with them.
That's something that they want to do. If that's a decision they make, then we already have that building designed.
It's clear that the county would like to work with the city on the L&J, but they also agreed waiting on the city is wasting time. By making their own plan, this allows the county to ensure they will appear on the November ballot.
November is an important time because it does give us more time to do some of our design it gives us more time for the public to see what would come before them in November.
The question still remains with the November ballot, will the open space bonds stay there or will they be moved to a June ballot?
The open space groups will likely contact the county commissioners and with what they would propose, and then it would be our responsibility to have public hearings and consider it and vote on it.
And the county commissioners told me today that city commissioners said it will take them 4 to 5 weeks for them to make a decision on whether they're going to stay in the current Law and Justice Center or branch out on their own to that property on Rouse. Reporting from the county courthouse, Morgan Davies, MTN News.
Thank you so much, Morgan. Now an update for you on the Bozeman Sports Complex. City officials have set aside an additional $917,000 for the project. The city already had $7.5 million for the complex, but because of a construction overrun, more money was needed. The current funding will cover the construction of 4 soccer fields, but the city hopes to have 8 fields in that area. Having 8 fields will allow Bozeman to host tournaments in the complex, which they believe will generate more revenue.
It brings folks here who are going to be staying in our hotels, eating at our restaurants, shopping at our sporting goods stores, but it also keeps parents from having to drive to distant places.
Now, in order to raise money for those additional fields, the city is asking the community to donate to Bozeman Parks Foundation. By the way, Stockman Bank just donated $75,000 to the foundation as well. And in other news, here on your Thursday morning, cases of the flu are on the rise across western Montana. And with that in mind, state health experts have some advice on not catching the bug. Infectious disease specialist Pam Whitney says the best thing we can do is practice hand hygiene. This means washing your hands more often during this time of year, keeping an alcohol-based sanitizer nearby, and wiping down all surface areas that are frequently used. If you cough, cover your mouth with your forearm or your elbow, having tissues ready to use nearby, and most importantly, getting your flu shot. Whitney says there are many people who do receive the flu shot, but they still get sick. She says it's likely because the H3N2 flu strand mutated after the vaccine was made.
In March is when they put the vaccine together. And so they always look at the southern hemisphere when they do that. So the strains that were circulating there is what went into the vaccine. And it was an H3N2 strain, but between March and now when we started seeing the cases, it changed a little bit. So that's why we're seeing people who got the vaccine not quite being protected.
Now, according to the Department of Health and Human Services, 1,931 cases have been reported so far this season in Montana alone, along with 18 deaths. An avalanche danger is high this time of year, so Search and Rescue Group in Butte is putting together an avalanche safety training session this weekend. MTN's John Amy tells us how the training will help out.
High snowfall and recent avalanche deaths in Montana have prompted Butte's 1590 Search and Rescue team to host an avalanche course in the mining city this weekend.
Danger across the state right now is pretty high. It's high most places and extreme in some places.
Search and rescue teams from around western Montana have been invited to the Butte Search and Rescue headquarters for a class Saturday to learn certain methods in identifying avalanche conditions. One method, called trenching, is something winter enthusiasts should all know.
And they'll trench. And see, what I've done here is I can now see this snow for a couple of weeks here. And you can see there's powder, but you can also see there's a layer of ice right here. Now see, that's the kind of thing this powder would sit on in a hill and start to slide.
Search and Rescue says this class is important because the current snow that western Montana has received, it doesn't take much for avalanche conditions to occur.
We were on a search about 15 years ago, happened down more towards Beaverhead County, where somebody died in about 2 inches of snow. But it all came down the hill at once, and by the time it swept him away, he was completely covered and buried. And it doesn't take very much.
The Butte Search and Rescue plans to hold this course again sometime next month for regular citizens who are interested to learn more about avalanche safety. John Amy, MTN News in Butte.
Now, the training will be done by the Peak Inc., and those that are interested in attending can call 490-9586. And the Montana Cybersecurity Summit was held yesterday at the DoubleTree Hotel in Billings. The event was hosted by Commissioner Matt Rosendale. Those in attendance were taught about threats to security at their businesses and data breaches. Former professional hacker who uses his services to find weaknesses in the security of different businesses also spoke at the event.
In today's security landscape, being secure is very important, and there's a little that you can do that goes a long, long way. So not using the same password for every website, using a password manager is an incredible help. And then checking your credit rating, making sure that people aren't opening credit cards in your name is a lot of bang for your buck.
367,000 Montanans were affected last year by the Equifax data breach. Now, home improvement retailer Lowe's says it is preparing to hire nearly 200 people for Montana stores. The in-store seasonal hires include cashiers, lawn and garden stockers, and assemblers. The positions are typically held March through September. Hiring events are planned at the company's 5 Montana stores, including one here in Bozeman on February 13th. Lowe's plans to hire approximately 53,000 part-time seasonal employees this year. Now stick around. We have a very special guest joining us in the studio. Former policewoman is talking with us about something nobody really wants to talk about. But first, looking ahead at what's happening at 7 a.m. on CBS this morning.
Good morning. Ahead on CBS this morning. 2 of the women who confronted Larry Nassar in court are in Studio 57 today. We'll talk with them about the courage it took to come forward. And we sit down with Grammy Award-winning couple Alicia Keys and producer Swizz Beatz. It's their first joint interview. We'll see you 7 o'clock on the dot.